Hey everybody, Bobby Medina here. Glad to be with you once again, bringing you a very special and super fun interview with someone very special. And I'm here with my good friend Paul Barron, and I'm going to let him introduce our special guest.
Hi, everybody. I'd like to introduce you to our friend Karen Donnelly. Just a few little bullet points to introduce everybody to her. She started her career and life, I guess, in Saskatchewan, Regina. Is that right, Karen?
Yep.
And she did her undergrad at the University of Regina, master's degree at McGill, very famous university for music in Canada. And then freelanced in Montreal for another few years, and then became the principal trumpet of the London Symphony, London,
Orchestra
Ontario.
London. Yeah, yeah. Orchestra
I
London.
always
Yeah.
say that.
Oh, yeah.
My sister teaches at London,
Oh, yeah.
Ontario. I always
Yeah,
like
exactly.
to say
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And for the last 25 years has been principal trumpet of the National Arts Centre Orchestra in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. So
Right.
welcome, Karen. Nice to
Thank
have you.
you. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Very nice to join you here today.
All right, excellent.
Awesome. Well, Karen, I'm going to try to get this party started here. And I guess since you are our first lady trumpet player on here that we've introduced, I've been really excited to chat and get some other perspective. And also you are, well, we've had some other really fine orchestral players on here as well. We did have Michael Sachs on here
Awesome.
and some other great players as well. But you're our first female orchestral player. And for many, many years, and I'll be honest, I am not in the orchestral world at all. I'm more of a commercial player, but I do love orchestral music. And for years, I've wondered a lot of things about auditions and this and that. And one of the things that I'm kind of curious, specific for you to get it started with is what are some of the challenges that are faced as a female being in the orchestral world?
Um, well, it's funny, like it's always so strange to be asked that because I just feel like a trumpet player. And I just
That's good. I like
I'm
that
sitting
answer
back,
right off the top
no,
of my
like I mean,
head.
I just sit back in the back row of the orchestra and I don't really think about what it looks like. I'm just there doing my thing and playing and trying to bring the best product and that I can bring. But then I will admit that I look at photos, sometimes, photos that I see, publicity photos or whatever of the orchestra, and I'm like, oh yeah, I kind of stick out. Like I don't see it myself, or feel it. But when I see oh, that's why people always ask me, very often in the trombone, trumpet, tuba row, I'm the only girl. And the other thing is the guys I sit beside, one guy is 6'4" and I'm 5'8". I'm tall for a woman, but I have these tall, big dudes around me. And then I'm kind of like a slight tall, slender. So it's oh man, I guess it sort of looks weird back there. Anyway, but, so yeah, navigating through the world, I mean, there has been ups and downs, and I guess it's kind of a good thing that I sort of stick out because I want to be noticed. I want as a principal player, as a leader in the orchestra, I want people to be able to obviously I want to stick out musically. First and foremost, when I'm supposed to be leading, I want to be heard, and so that people can follow easily. So that's my job to do. I do my job well, so it makes it easier for everybody else to do their job. That's sort of how
Well, I
I
think
think
that's
that.
a great answer. I think that's a great answer. I know that in the past, before there was use of screens and stuff for auditions,
Oh yeah.
back in those days, that was maybe one of the very first obstacles that women faced. And I've heard also people of color may have had challenges because of that as well. But I always, love, truly people need to be taken on their merits and not who they are, not defined by who they are. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, I don't think I've taken an audition in my years, say 30 years of doing orchestra playing, with that there has not been a screen, at least for the first round. Quite often, the screen comes down for the final round, but sometimes not. But I can acknowledge that, yeah, it would look, I have been in the finals before where it's me and other guys. And, you know, again, this slender woman comes out, and I try to I'm aware of that in that situation, because if I'm followed by these big dudes or whatever, so I'm aware of that. And it's the old saying of Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire, like she had to do all the dance steps he did backwards and in high heels. So it's a little bit like I just have to make sure I'm on my game and make my role very convincing and make it very clear that, in spite, people might think, oh wow, and I hear it all the time, like, oh, you make a big sound for such a little girl.
yeah, that's
It's kind of brutal, but it's also like, I understand it might look, you have this
well, and
massive
it,
sound coming from, or like, not that I make a massive sound, but you know what I mean, I have this big sound coming from, I understand, but it's breaking down those stereotypes, right?
right,
And we're
absolutely.
all learning to change, to develop a more forward thinking perspective and inclusive, and and that,
But
anybody.
sometimes like something like a comment like that you just mentioned, is not something that necessarily is meant to be a slight in any sort of way. It's more of something maybe that's unexpected. Like, even if you see, it's like, I'm a smaller guy, and if you see a big giant guy and he's playing high notes, it's kind of expected. But maybe if you're a smaller guy and all of a sudden you have this thing you do, people are like, wow, I just kind of didn't expect that from you for whatever reason.
I personally, I have never felt that it's simply like naive observational comments from
Exactly.
mostly from people in the audience, and I never take it as negative. It's a simple observation, and I understand why they would feel that, especially, like I said, given the perspective. It's like, oh yeah, I guess I do. I am noticeable. People comment on it because of that. So
You have
Okay.
some
Well,
big dudes in your section next to you. I know
yeah,
Colin is a big
yeah,
man.
exactly. Yeah, like there's a whole bunch of guys like that, like big dudes, like big
Wow.
football dudes almost, and strong guys. And anyway, but it's okay. They're
So
lovely guys, and I've never ever ever had any issues with any of my colleagues.
that's great. So
Yeah.
Karen, I know you're a real student of the trumpet and you're always seeking more knowledge and I love that. Can you
Yeah.
tell us about your lessons and because you do that every year, right? You were telling
Well,
me?
yeah, I not maybe not every year. I have always, I sort of have the same kind of approach of an athlete. Like pro athletes always have coaches. They always have, and various kinds of coaches. Like a professional singer will have a diction coach, will have a lyric coach, will have So I always have, in my professional career, I've always sort of looked for outside feedback. And it's funny, I have had colleagues go like, "Why are you taking a lesson? I mean, is everything okay? Are your chops okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just trying to get better. I want to get feedback on where I'm at, because I want to be able to keep going up. So
yeah, if you're
yeah,
not moving forward, you're moving backward, right?
that's what we say. If you're not getting better, you're getting worse. Yeah,
Well, you're exactly right. I mean, I still take a few lessons every now and then.
awesome.
I have business coaches and stuff as well, and
Right.
people that are mentors. So I think that's really important. And I know people, many professionals. In fact, I think some of the people that I view as some of the best players, they're seeking outside input.
Yeah, I think honestly, I feel like in anything, it's sort of dangerous to get complacent and be not. I've always tried to be curious and ask questions and wonder, like, and also kind of like I admire what other people do, you know, I get inspired from friends or colleagues or other great players around the world, especially now. I mean, so much, there's so much information and content online that it's just a little click and your ears are full, your ears and your eyes are full of like the world's greatest players. So it's not hard to find inspiration.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So who have you gone to that's had the biggest, profound impact on your playing?
Well, I mean, you know, I could talk chronologically, but you know, I did sort of have a late start to the trumpet, which I also think is I've always had that feeling of, oh, I got to catch up, I got to catch up. So that could also be contributing to my like, oh, I want to learn more, I want to learn more. But in the early years, I had this great influence of these guys in the Montreal Symphony, and then after I graduated and was a sort of young professional, I took lessons from Arnold Jacobs, which was awesome, and I attended his summer. He had a week long course at Northwestern, and also had the amazing opportunity of working a very intensive course here at the National Youth Orchestra of Canada. Vincent Chikowitz used to be the trumpet coach, so I had 3 weeks with him, like basically all day long. And his students from Northwestern back then used to say his Canadian students used to say, yeah, they had more face time with him during NYO, which we call it, than they did being full-time students at Northwestern. So that was a pretty special time.
I've always been, sorry to interrupt. I've always
Yeah.
been really curious about him. Of course, you know, I've seen some of his studies and stuff, but what was, if you had to put it in a nutshell, did you have one big takeaway studying with him?
Well, you know, the first word that comes to mind is he was a gentleman. He was a kind gentleman, you know, and he just calm and, you know, supportive, and yeah, so somehow managed to bring whoever together in the section and just bring everybody up with his obviously his level and concept was so high, and expectation as well. But a lot of his whole approach was based on tension and getting rid of it. So much of the work was talking about relaxed and easy flow. I don't know, for whatever reason, that summer he was still playing a lot of trumpet, and we had a lot of lessons where he and I actually played duets, but he never wanted to play first. So I got to play I had like the world's best second trumpet player playing duets with me. It felt pretty darn good, I gotta say. That was pretty cool. Anyway, yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
So, yeah, he was an amazing man. Yeah, everyone says the same thing.
Bobby, do you have another question?
Well, yeah, I'm kind of curious, Karen, we have this, our Facebook group, our tips for trumpeters 50 and beyond.
Yeah.
Kind of started as a little thing just that I put together starting in this COVID period.
Yeah.
And I've always thought about it. I've always thought there are age brackets in not in sports and other areas of life. Not that music is a sport at all, but there's nobody that I've seen that really sort of caters to a group of people, trumpeters in this age category. And so there's been changes. And part of the reason I started is because I know that people have changes in their body. I know that good trumpet playing is good trumpet playing, whether you're 15 or whether you're 100. But we also experience different things. And for some people, some real setbacks. We've had some folks in the group that have are going through and have suffered through cancer,
right?
Severe weight loss, things that affect their musculature, things that have affected their playing in a big way. Have you overcome anything specifically, or have you been like me and been totally lucky and lucked out and just kind of skated through all these years?
Well, no, I think I would say, well, mostly when I have trouble, I'm the victim of my own stupidity. Like, honestly, like where I just like sometimes I don't know, but I will say that part of I have known other players who have experienced injury, so I have been exposed to that, and therefore I'm a little sensitive and aware. So I'm I'm pretty careful, but not smart. But nowadays I think, well, experience of course has been amazing. But yeah, I will totally agree with that. Like the body changes and our chops change, and how we, and I notice over the years, like I noticed like when I was in my 30s, like recovery from a big show, no problem. Like boom, second day, I got this, you know. But now if I have a big show or a big week, it's like it takes me a while to get my face back. And you know, if we have these big shows that we're doing like several in a week, like I gotta be mindful of the warm down after has always helped me, and very careful about what I do the next day has always, you know. And I often, unfortunately, when I get into trouble, like with my chops, for example, it's unfortunately, it's like when I'm practicing and it's going great and I'm having fun, and then I realize like I'm in there, my woo woo woo, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, what have I done?
Yeah.
And I've just been practicing for the last 45 minutes and barely took the thing off my face, and I got a show tonight. What have I done? Like I hate that. I've done that so many times, but now I use like technology. I have an app and a timer, and the thing goes off, and I very, very rarely now practice, I'd say the last 3-4 years, without a timer going to remind me, one, to take the thing off my face, and two, to get back at it, because I get distracted doing other stuff, and put my music, or to, you know, whatever, and oh yeah, I got to get back on, and then I'm not using my time efficiently. So that's really helped me.
So
The
what
other,
is the app that you
oh,
use?
I use it. I got it from Chris Smith, the now principal trumpet of the San Diego Symphony, but he used to play in the Montreal Symphony. So it's called Seconds Pro. It's the same app also that Tom Hooten talks about in his class. Tom Hooten from the LA Phil, and it's like an athletic app that's programmable. You can download free apps that are athletic apps, like you know, high intensity interval training. It's sort of like that. But this one, it's costs $6 or something like that. But you get to customize it. Seconds Pro, and I customize it like for my warm up routine, and I schedule in rest periods so that I don't make those stupid mistakes. There's nothing worse than having fun and then regretting it, you know.
Well, I
So
think we've all been there. You get
yeah,
excited and you're playing and everything's working,
yeah,
and wow, I can
yeah,
do everything today. And you get so excited, and then you cross your
yeah,
line
totally,
and then you're
so
screwed.
many times. The other element that I would say is, and you know, it's a fact, physiologically we need good strength in the body, and while I'm not like, you know, I'm no Arnold Schwarzenegger or anything, I do have a sort of regular regime of working with weights and strengthening my core, my back, but I do a lot. I have done for many years a lot of yoga, so I can, like, flexibility and easing tension in my. For me, it's upper shoulders and low back. So I if I don't do that, then I tend to get into trouble physically with my body.
Absolutely.
But if I'm good at the, you know, and it's a catch-22, like you get busy and you get tired, and then, oh, I don't have time, or and then some days I'm actually, like in the olden days when we were working, you know, in the before time, you know, I'd have to, like, oh, what's going to be better for me? Should I take a nap? Because I find I recover if I have a nap. My face, if I'm having a terrible dress rehearsal in the morning and we have our show at night and it's not, I will absolutely schedule a nap in.
Hmm.
And that helps my face recover.
I've never thought of
Oh,
that, to be honest with you. And I know singers do that, you know. Why wouldn't it make sense for trumpeters to do it?
well, yeah.
It does, you know. I
It's
just never
also,
thought of it.
yeah, also it helps me for concentration because, you know, like if I'm going hard all day or whatever and up early, and then like the big end last movement is at like 9:45 or 10 o'clock at night, is where I got to have like the total head screwed on and going, and I need to feel somewhat fresh, you know. So
That's interesting. Everybody's bodies are different, I guess. For me, if I were to take a nap, and I'm not a napper, but on occasion, if I do, I get up after the nap and almost feel
Puffy?
puffy,
Yeah.
like I would after a night's sleep.
In the
So for
morning,
me,
yeah.
it's actually detrimental. It
Yeah.
almost means like I have to start my day twice.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I time it, you know, like I got a kind of a routine, like if I have to play at a 10 o'clock rehearsal in the morning, I'm up 3 hours before. Like, so because my face, I just want to be upright and let like any swelling drain naturally, you
Yeah.
know. And I drink a lot of water. I hydrate. I mean, I know that in this, I read several posts on this on this Facebook page, like about chop recovery and stuff, and so many people said hydrate, hydrate. And again, it's inspired by athletes. They do that too, right? Let
You
them
know,
flush
speaking
out the
of
toxins, you know.
Right. Speaking of beneficial apps, I actually have a hydration app that I use to remind
Wow.
myself that I'm not hydrating enough, especially when I'm in higher elevations, working in
Oh,
Denver,
wow.
Albuquerque, or something. Or
What's the name of that?
uh, I'll have to look it up, but I'll let you know in a second.
Yeah, okay.
So I have another question. Is it okay to ask,
Yeah.
Bobby? Good
Yeah,
timing.
absolutely.
So you have other extracurricular things outside of the orchestra that you do, and I've written a couple of those bullet points down. Can you tell us about, you had in 2019, you founded the Women's Brass Collective,
Yeah.
and there was supposed to be a big conference this year as well, right?
Well, we're planning, we're hoping. Yeah. So thanks for asking. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
sure.
It's yeah, you know, there exists and has existed for what, 30 years, the International Women's Brass Conference, that Susan Slaughter started, and I've attended that thing a few times. But for whatever, like the timing just never worked out. They always had the dates that were like right at the, like during a main series week, that there's no way I could take that off, you know? So I just could never go. And I kind of a few years ago had this like sort of epiphany of, I've been in the business long enough that now I have female brass playing colleagues who came to me and said, and it happened to me 3 or 4 or 5 times in this sort of short-ish period of time, that made me ding with the light bulb, that like they said to me, these younger, like 10 years younger than me or whatever, said, you were the person that made me believe that I could do this. Seeing you doing the job made me believe that, oh, okay, then maybe I can. And I had someone like that. I had Joan Watson, who was the associate principal horn of the Toronto Symphony, and
Sure.
the second trombone in the Montreal Symphony when I was at McGill is and was then a woman, Vivian Lee. And those are the only two that I knew of. There's like that were in high level, top professional Canadian orchestras. And this is like before the internet. You know, I had heard talk of a Susan Slaughter. You know, I knew that she existed. I'd never gotten to meet her, you know, just by recording. So anyway, it occurred to me like, oh man, I guess I'm that person. Like, I guess I'm that person now for these young trumpet players. So, and I thought, and the visit, like them saying the visibility of seeing me in the job, and that sort of hit me. And I thought, you know what, we should do something for like the Canadian students who don't have the opportunity to go. Because the times I did go to the IWBC, it was very moving, very impactful to see a really amazing group, like brass ensemble, like top, that sounds incredible, and it's all women, and it's unusual. And it looks different, and it hits you like, oh wow, yeah. So anyway, that's a long answer. I'll just so cut to the chase. I thought we should do this here in Canada, something. So, and I thought, okay, I just had this idea, I'm gonna do it. So I emailed like all the people who I could think of in the geographical region of Ottawa, which is 2 hours to Montreal and 5 hours to Toronto. So like in this sort of Middle Eastern Canada region, because just some simple geography. Let's get together. I emailed like 40 female colleagues, And every single person wrote back and said, yes, I'd like to do
Wow.
it. I wrote and I said, I got no money. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm thinking about doing this. Would you be interested? And boom, everyone wrote back and said, yeah. You know, only one person said, you know, I'm not able to do it for whatever reason, you know. So we had this thing and it was a hit. It was amazing. And it was just mentoring, providing visibility, and a very positive dialogue about inclusivity, diversity, like all these things that are, and navigating through the business. And you know, and it was just so we had such a great time in 2019 that we said, okay, we better do it again. So we thought we'll do it in 2 years, like, because every year is sort of demanding. It was crazy organizing.
It's a lot of work putting that.
Oh man,
those
it
on,
was
isn't it?
it was like I was in over my head big time, and thank God I had some friends who like threw me a life saver. Anyway, but now we have a little more. We're organized. We have a committee, and we have blah blah blah. You know, we have meetings, and so. But with this whole COVID thing, we'll see. We had the hope of it happening in January 2021 again in Toronto, at the University of Toronto as our host. But we haven't announced anything, but we're hoping. But you know what? It's so fun to have outside projects, to work with other people. You know, being 25 years in the same job, working with the same guy. And where I work is a fantastic orchestra. It's like a super good job, same kind of level contract and as the MSO and the Montreal and Toronto Symphony. So it's a very high level job. So people don't leave. So you're in there, you're a lifer, you know. It's like, so it's fun to get to play other projects. Like I have a brass quintet that are people from, I have a brass quintet in the orchestra, of course, but I also have a brass quintet that is from people outside of the orchestra, the True North Brass Quintet.
Okay.
You know, and it's the two guys from Toronto and one guy from Montreal, and you know, it's just stimulating and keeping, you know, fire going and spirit up. And
so what kind of gigs do you do with that group?
Oh, it's typical, but it's typical like chamber music festivals or, you know, series. We get invited to play on chamber music series. Basically, that's.
Are you also doing outreach things with the schools?
Through the NAC for sure. The True North, we do sort of high level university teaching, master classes, but I think that group would be open to doing any kind of outreach. You know, all of the guys and gal in the group are committed educators and into it, you know.
I've got, I think, 3 True North CDs, and excellent group.
Well, okay, so yeah, so that group has existed for 25 or 30 years, but the original members all have retired, and so they basically it's sort of like the new True North Brass. So this is sort of next gen. So that's sort of where I'm in there. So we actually, the new configuration, we haven't recorded a full CD yet, but we're working on it.
Great. Can't wait to hear that one.
But we have access to all those they have a huge library. They have great arrangers that were in that group. And so we have this access to this huge library. It's pretty amazing. So
cool.
We have a unique voice. It's fun. Yeah.
I have to ask, I'm gonna switch gears here just a little bit, and because something entered my mind as we were talking, and as we get older, you know, we have this happen to us, and we interviewed Peter Pickett the other day, and so I'm just curious, have you? Do you play on different gear now than you played maybe when you first joined the orchestra?
Yeah.
How has that changed?
I've gone bigger. I started with a smaller setup, and I've gone to bigger. I play very standard, well, quite standard. I play a Bach 1.5 C mouthpiece with a 24 throat and a 24 backbore. It's like very, very typical. A lot of orchestral players play a 1 1/4 or a 1 C with 24, but that's what I play.
What were you playing before that?
I started on a 5 C.
Oh, okay.
The same mouthpiece that basically came with my trumpet. Oh, anyway, I kind of had a late start, so I was having success, so didn't want to change.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Then I went to a 3C, like, yeah, and then 1.5, and yeah.
Now, was that all because of the sound that you wanted to get,
Yeah.
or was it physical changes going on?
No, it was just the sound I was looking for, and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Well, that's interesting because and this may be more of a thing with commercial players and maybe soloists or something, but we were talking when we were talking with Peter, he was talking about how so many people come to him and they want to learn to play more efficiently. We feel like you don't have as much air, maybe as much strength as you used to have when you were 20 or 30 years old. So people in a lot of cases, myself included, have gone smaller rather than bigger. I can't see myself going bigger doing the things that I do. It would be brutal.
I'll tell you something is I've also gone to sort of heavier trumpets, but I haven't sold any of my sort of early trumpets because I'm kind of expecting that arc.
Yeah.
I had a great horn, that a lighter horn, and I'm like, I haven't sold it. I thankfully didn't need the money yet, but I'm also expecting, like I've always gone to bigger and heavier horns, and I don't know, I've heard the same thing, so.
Well, that's really smart because I'm sure that there's so many of us that, me included, that have, excuse me, had horns over the years. And then we got to a new one and we go, oh, well, this is it.
I love it. Yeah.
And then sell the other ones only to regret it later.
We've all had that. Every trumpet player that's been in the business for some years has gone through that. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I have a few that I sold that I regret, but I'm okay for now.
We are kind of rounding the bend here, so we're gonna end with our little lightning round for you, and I'll throw out the first question, and then Paul, we'll go back and forth on this. We'll throw a few out there. I'm gonna just throw out something real quick. And you got to answer first thing on top of your mind, okay? What's your favorite book?
Oh, Harry Potter.
So lightning means it has to go fast, and so I should have a question in my head too, right? Bobby, if you got another one, I'll try and think of one.
How about your favorite hobby?
I like to golf and garden. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are you an avid camper? I know that you were just on a camping trip.
Yeah. We like to camp. We have a Volkswagen camper van, so it's bring out the inner hippie.
Yeah.
All right. Do you play Grateful Dead when you're out there?
More Joni Mitchell.
Okay. Oh, better choice anyway.
But they still swap cassette tapes.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
At least it's not 8-track.
Yeah.
Well, very cool. Well, it's been our pleasure having you here with us, and thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule and sharing your thoughts and ideas. It's really a joy to talk to you, and I really look forward to hearing some of your recordings here and having you be a member of the group. We love it.
Well, thanks. Well, I gotta say, I mean, I met Paul when he was on the road here, and subsequently picked up his book when it came out, and I totally talk about being curious. I had a aha light bulb moment when I was reading your book. So it's great. I'm happy to talk trumpet. I love talking trumpet.
Yeah. Okay.
Don't we all? Yes.
Well, very cool. Well,
great to meet you. Bobby.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the future, we'll look at having you maybe on maybe in a group thing, in a group setting with some.
That'd be
people.
fun.
So, well, thank you so very much for being here with us. And I'm sure our viewers here, our members, are going to get a lot out of this and enjoy this. I know I have, and it's been a lot of fun. And we look forward to crossing paths again in the not too distant future. Thank you so much.
In person.
Absolutely.
Hopefully in person one day.
Yep. All righty, guys. Well, thanks so much. Talk to you soon.
Take care.
Thanks, Karen. Bye.
Bye, Paul.